No, you don't. We have hand fittings. Mark's always are connected. His burner never comes off of the tanks. He has an additional way to fuel the tanks. But then Ron's basket uses a wrench. If you want to get the hoses on and off, you actually have to get a wrench out. So, with us, we're using the same fittings for the tanks as you would in your gas grill. So just those hand acting fittings. So all the fittings for propane are made of brass, because as soon as brass gets a little pressure under it, it expands just enough to make that seal. There is an O-ring inside of here as a backup. As this goes on, I'm not going to put everything kind of flight ready because it doesn't really need to. But as these goes on, all right. So the tanks are a little different than your gas grill, in that your gas grill is using what's right in the top of the tank. It's just that vapor that's coming off of the propane, it's that vapor air mixture. It's boiled propane, so it's propane vapor. It's coming off the top. That's what's going to be in your gas grill. We need to use liquid. We need to use a lot of liquid. So we're going to do two things. Well, first we're going to remove the limiters that the valves have as a safety feature. So all propane tanks, if you were to go to your gas grill, take an X-Acto knife, cut your hose, and it's going to shut off. It's got too much flow to it. It's got a spring that's going to stop it. In ours, we don't have that. We also need to use the liquid, so the tanks are stood up, the valves are on top, so we're going to put a straw all the way to the bottom so it's going to slurp it. Kind of like a seltzer bottle where you shake it up and push the button. It's going to come from the bottom of the tank, so all that pressure is pushing down. The only problem with that is, if it gets cold out, we don't have enough of that boiling pressure, so propane keeps itself under pressure by boiling. It boils at negative 44 degrees, so that's very cold. If you were to be outside at negative 44 degrees, you could pour it just like a cup of water. But we can actually do two things. We can heat the tanks, so we actually plug in the tanks when it's cold. A lot of people will say, what the heck are these for? So we'll plug these in overnight, just keep them around 80 degrees, or we'll actually put nitrogen in the top of the tanks. And so kind of works sort of like your soda bottle. So once I turn these valves on, you can see these are quick shut-off valves. They're just on-off. So this is a safety feature that we have in our system. This is going to create pressure up here. Turn on our pilot lights. One click with those igniters. We get those replaced. I know. she likes that. It doesn't work like that all the time, does it? So if we were to just take the fuel straight out of this hose right into the burner and burn it, it's going to be a bright, vivid flame, but it's not going to be very hot. It's going to be very hot, but in a comparison, it's not going to burn very efficiently. So you'll see that. Now what's going to happen right now, it's going to go up and over just because we have a lot of wind. You guys see that looks like a stream there? That's actually liquid propane that's coming out. As liquid propane comes out and is exposed to the air, it's going to expand by almost 70 times. So one drop is going to turn into 70 drops almost immediately. So that's what's happening here. If we were to take that same propane and throw it through the coils, and as it's expanding, heat it up, just by the fire passing it, it's going to come out a lot more efficient. It's going to not be as bright. It's going to be a lot louder. It's also going to be a lot hotter. And so we're using that. That creates, your typical gas grill gets about a 300,000 BTU. It's a British thermal unit. It's a unit of measure that I can go full-on nerd and tell you all about. However, we don't need to. This creates 30 million BTU, so it's a little more powerful. So, where you can't see as much of that flame, that's a lot hotter. It's almost 4 times as hot. It's about 40% louder. Why do we have 2 of these? Well, if we're standing the balloons up at night for a festival, it's called a glow. We can actually have the balloons stood up and light up the inside of the balloons. It looks amazing. So if you guys ever find a festival, they do a glow, go to it. You guys probably feel that radiant heat out there. I don't feel it as much in here because I've got these are almost shields for me. All the air is being pulled up here just by a method of just Venturi. And so when you're in the basket, you're not feeling the heat. Now the tall guys that aren't wearing hats, they might feel a little bit on their head, but honestly, we're only burning for about 2 to 3 seconds at a time. The only time it gets really hot is when we're coming into land or we're just burning and burning and burning. And so you saw as I burned a little bit more, you almost get what's called a hyper burn. This burner is designed to prevent that, but it's Mark would have burned his burner